Satang Prasanga.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that things are improving wherever you are in your current situation. So we move on to the next sutra today, and it goes as follows. If you wish to always appear strong or successful, you lose the ability for transparency. By attempting success through the management of appearances, you lose freedom to be honest. You are unable to express needs. You must cover up your mistakes. You need to have all the answers, and you lose the freedom to be yourself. We gradually seeing that the devotee is moving into a very introspective state of being. He is really self-analyzing and self-introspecting and trying to understand what is the best step to take in a very difficult time, in a very difficult situation. And in doing so, he's analyzing the different alternatives that he has. And of course, there's always the alternative to do it the easier way. The easier way is like Arjuna did, just to run away from the situation. And when that alternative is not there, then how to face it in the most comfortable way, least inconvenient way. So we use our intelligence to say, what is the least inconvenient way? And Arjuna did that. He quoted 20 Dharma Shastras. There are 20 Dharma Shastras. He quoted some of them in arguing with Krishna in the end of the first chapter, beginning of the second chapter. So Krishna defeated all those arguments. And at the end he understood. And still Krishna gave him, now you choose, Arjun. And you know, when we have choice, it's very difficult, especially these difficult ones, because we don't know whether we made the right one or not. So Arjuna was in that situation. But at the end of all of that, the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is that it's a book of choices. You choose, Arjuna, what you want to do. And he says, like we said yesterday, Yata chese tata kuru. Krishna, I just want to do what you are asking me to do. And that's bhakti, that's what it comes to. Srila Prabhupada would say sometimes, don't depend on me, I may let you down. I'm mortal after all. But depend on Krishna, he is immortal, he'll never let you down. So what does that mean? Because we are trying to assess what is Krishna and who is Krishna. So in the understanding of the absolute truth, the Vedas tell us, Vedanti tat tattvam vidas tat yaj jnanam avyayam Brahman eti paramatma eti bhagavan eti shabdate. Srimad Bhagavatam describes this, that in order to understand the absolute truth, which is Krishna, then we have to understand Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. And Brahman is his formless feature. Paramatma is his localized feature. And Bhagavan is his personal feature. So we've skipped all of that and we're already relating to Krishna in his personal feature. But in doing that, we must not mistaken or underestimate his majesty. To think that he's just another devata, another demigod. another deity that we chose because we like his color. Color-coded blue. Good color. Plays the flute, nice music. Likes prasadam, Jagannath. Because if we have that kind of relationship with Krishna, then it will just be a bargain relationship. Bargaining. That you give me this, I'll give you prayers in return. Very good exchange, isn't it? I'll come and cry in front of you and drop a few tears down and come offer you some prayers and give some donation. And in that way, you give me these material desires that I want. It doesn't work like that. Today's sutra is saying, if you wish to always appear strong or successful, you lose the ability for transparency. How can you be transparent if you're always in the mode of success and being a great achiever? How can you be transparent if you're always in this mode of success? We're not against success. No. We are very for success. But success driven with Krishna as the goal. What is being described here is success driven with me as the goal. Selfishness. That I've created an image. We are living up to an image now. So can you see the subtleties of the different nuances that come through in devotional service? So it's very, very subtle. Devotees, we have to become aware of these things, because as we're going on, Maya becomes more and more subtle, more and more tricky. So he's doing devotional service, he's engaging in devotional service, but just that slight flick of the button, and now it's him in the center and not Krishna in the center. Slight switch in the mind, and now he is in the center and not Krishna. And yet he's moving on with the same intensity, the same power, the same drive. But due to him being in the center, his achievements, his success, his power, he gradually loses the focus of dependency on Krishna. Krishna Eka Sharanam, one of the 26 qualities of the devotee, just surrendering to Krishna, depending on Krishna. This is the essence of bhakti, just depending on Krishna. We see in the earlier years, I remember when I was in Cape Town, we had this devotee, very sincere soul, nice guy, who joined. He came from a wealthy background, was very philosophically inclined. But he didn't like book distribution, and Cape Town was a book distributing temple. So when we would go out, he would come back with some really good book scores, but we would notice that he would hardly distribute books. So either he was very talented or he was faking it somehow. And eventually we found out that whatever extra monies he would get from his folks, he would keep it. And when we would do books distribution, he would go out and pay for the books and give out the books for free. So in that way, he was getting his score done and, tweaking it that way. We had some interesting devotees, people who joined in Cape Town in those years, in the early 90s, middle 90s. Another guy came also, needed a place to stay, so he said, hey, we're a devotional institution, you have to follow these principles. Yeah. So every day it would be a struggle for him to get up, and he would get up, come down for Mangalarti, and chant with us for a few minutes and then go away. And he said, hey, this guy, something is not right here. And then later we found out that he would chant, he had a bead bag, but he didn't have beads in it. And he would be chanting, he would be going around as if he's chanting, meanwhile there's no beads in the bag only. So it was so humorous. One day they figured it out, and then they checked his bead bag, there's no beads there. So the way we tweak things to suit our situation, the human mind can figure out amazing things when it wants to situate itself in a certain way. The sutra goes on to say, by attempting success through the management of appearances. Yes, we create these facades, and we're the only one who believe it actually. That's the amazing thing, because Krishna can see right through it. Devotees who are a little more experienced, they can see right through it immediately, that this is just a facade, that actually this devotee is selfishly driven. Krishna is not in the center of this project. This is a selfish attempt for name, fame, setting up a kind of succession with him always being remembered. And we see in India, there's many of this. Prabhupada's own godbrother, Bon Maharaj, gave away, right opposite the ISKCON temple in Vrindavan, he gave away that whole big land to a college just so that his name will be there, Bon Maharaj College. Nothing spiritually connected, but gave away the whole thing. Prabhupada asked for it, he said no, and gave it away just so that his name would be there. So we have to be careful of these kind of efforts. You lose freedom to be honest. Naturally, if you always being successful, that's not the nature of this material world. It's always sukha dukkha da, batra sparshat konteya, sitoshna sukha dukkha da, agama apayano nityas tam statiksva bharata. 2.14 is saying you have to understand how it works in duality. So if we're always being successful, we're either tweaking it in some way or we're on a success run. And that is dangerous for two reasons. One, if we're always successful, we develop the idea that this is the way Krishna consciousness is, and this is the way Krishna is reciprocating. So in that mood, we don't surrender to Krishna. There's no urge to surrender, because success is coming and we give that accordingly back. There's no deep reason to surrender. So we start seeing Krishna as an order supplier. And secondly, we gradually start to think that we are great devotees because whatever we pray for and ask for is coming. Meanwhile, we're moving away from the path of bhakti. Remember, even ISKCON as an institution is only going to last 10,000 years. So as the mission of the Lord, that's always going on in this world. However the success of it is, as the mission of preaching in this world. So that's going to only last 10,000 years, but bhakti is going to go on forever. So if we're not joining the boat, if there's no synergy between individual devotion and institutional devotion, if there's no synergy there, then we'll be progressing and misdirecting ourselves, thinking that we are advancing in the path of bhakti. In the meantime, we're just having material accolades put onto our name, and that becomes very dangerous. It takes a long while before people realize the difference between the both. It goes on to say here, you are unable to express needs. So you'll have certain needs within you, but you can't express it because you're tweaking the situation, and you have to live up to a certain expectation. You have to live up to a certain situation that you've created artificially. It's not dependence on Krishna anymore. And goes on, you must cover up your mistakes. You're not allowed to make mistakes now because you set such a high standard of achievement. So you can't make mistakes. So who is that who doesn't make mistakes? Prabhupada said only a liberated person doesn't make mistakes. In the beginning of his Upanishad, he says there's 4 things a liberated person is. He doesn't make mistakes, he is not illusioned, he doesn't cheat others, and he doesn't perform sinful activity. This is a liberated person. M-I-C-S, Mics. This is given in Isa Upanishad. Goes on. You need to have all the answers. You have to be completely, if you're going to imitate Prabhupada on that pure level, then you'll have to also be able to answer like Prabhupada. So we see even Prabhupada in his projects, there were some projects that didn't work out. So why? Because he shows I'm dependent on Krishna. I'm not dependent on my own ability. I'm driving the projects for Krishna, but I depend on Krishna. I don't depend on my own success. If it comes, very well. If it doesn't, also very well. My bhakti is still being nourished. This is how the devotee thinks. And you lose the freedom to be yourself. How can you be yourself if you're tweaking everything? If you're faking everything? Like they say, fake it till you make it. How can you be yourself? You're not yourself. You're creating an image of someone who the society wants to relate to as a hero figure, a great successful person. But is it you? No. The devotee is always dependent on the Lord. What may come, no matter what may come, He is there. So, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed today's class. Please join us again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.